Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 10 of what if Naruto was the same age as Itachi. And also guys, remember to give this one to 300 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also go ahead and check out the brand new episode of what if Naruto had a new dream that would change everything. And I enjoyed that over an Anime King too. And remember guys, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, things were getting better as Naruto was getting more adjusted to the job of being Hokage. Yes, it wasn't so bad. As Naruto was recovering as well. As Naruto became in the office, as Naruto was there tracking Gurren, he was the one that purposely gave her the shard of crystal so that she could break out of her cell. As he were tracking her, as he had to find her, as he wanted to find her going back to Orochimaru. But a lightning bolt then shot the office. As Hiruzen knew who it was a girl from the Kurama clan. As both him and Naruto went there, as they met her, as Naruto was one to go inside. Being from the Kurama clan, she had a split personality, as her genjutsu were basically real. As Naruto made his way in there, her personality was off as he saw the seal as Jiraiya was the one that did it. But Jiraiya separated her personality for too long, so Naruto re-emerged them. As she regained her memories of what she did, her power spiraled out of control and burning down her family house, killing her parents, as she started to cry. As Naruto stayed with the girl there, and made sure that she was okay, for a while until he left. Weeks passed as Naruto continued to train his team as Hiruzen. As reclaiming his seat as Hokage, he's not pressuring Naruto as he just told him to think about the, opportunity that he gave him. As Naruto went to visit Teiwaya, as he asked her what she knew about the Uzumakis, as she feigned ignorance and not to know. But Naruto showed her a chakra chain that he was barely able to conjure up. It was from his mother, side of the family, her bloodline. As she was surprised to see it as Naruto knew that they were family. As he called her cousin, she was surprised to hear that from him. As the way he said it though, it wasn't with any venomous or anything behind it. It was sincere and he meant it. He was then called as they found her. They found the location that she stopped. As they made their way quickly, Naruto and his group, Onvus. But Orochimaru was gone when they got there. Damn it, he cursed as they were too late. There was a situation going on downstairs as Naruto made his way to find the little girl running around the Onvus. Yes, he was incredibly fast. Being fast himself, Naruto pushed forward. As she was surprised. This was the first time someone was able to keep up with her when she was moving this speed. As she stopped, as she asked him if the two of them were from the same clan. As Naruto did not understand what she was talking about. As he brought her with him back to Konoha. As they spoke to Hiruzen. As her name was Aya. As Naruto had been the one to take care of her until they managed to find her parents or with whatever clan they were from. As Naruto took her home, as Uncle became quickly connected with the girl because she'd been through the same thing with Orochimaru. As Aya slowly started to open up to them, as everything was going great, so more days passed. As Aya was training with Naruto's team, their objective was to capture her, as they managed to do it so, with Ami and Sakura blending their genjutsu and their fighting style together. As Naruto told them that it was time, as Take, Chunin exams was going to begin and he was going to take them there. As he made his way home, him and Uncle was talking before he left, as Uncle was quite upset because she knew that once they become Chunins, Naruto was going to start taking back those dangerous missions again. She was always worried about him when he went on those long missions with the Anvu, as she was always worried, thinking that something bad might happen even though she knew that he was strong. As he told her that they signed up for this, but she told him all of this could change if he just take the position of Hokage. She never wanted to say it out loud as she quickly covered her mouth. But it was out in the open. As he asked her that is how she truly felt, and she told him yes. Even though she didn't want to pressure him, that is how she felt. So yeah guys, so it's basically as we left off. You guys can switch across to the page and check out for yourself. So what is to begin this new episode? Uncle reached up. Aya, could you do me a favor, she said. Okay, she said, as all of the raised voices were making her a bit uncomfortable as she didn't know what's going on. Okay good, run to Ami and play with her for a while. Uncle said the best fake smash she could place in her face. As Aya nodded, she came down from her shoulders and waved goodbye before running off. There was a moment of awkward silence before Naruto spoke up. So you think I should take the position? Well, I know you, that is to say, she said. As she controlled herself, yes. I do, she said, as she released a sigh as a small weight was lifted from her shoulders. I mean, you'll be safer, right? The Hokage just run the village. No need for life-threatening missions. She said hopefully. At least Naruto could see that she was coming from a good place with this. Uncle, Naruto said in frustration and ran a hand through his hair. He need to be with his team in a few minutes. 1 out of 4 isn't a great track record for living to a ripe old age, you know? Uncle was rather confused as she looked at him. So he explained. The third was made Hokage when he was 21. So he's not that much older than me when he did. And actually younger than my dad was. He's now 68. Do you really think that he's just been sitting around doing paperwork for 47 years? Uncle wanted to say something but he cut her off as he continued. He's fought through 2 more shinobi wars, survived multiple assassination attempts, and from what I heard he was on the front lines during the Kyuubi attack. Just because he's content to let the younger generation do his strenuous work now, doesn't mean that he wasn't once on it. Uncle, the Hokage job is dangerous, and not just for the Hokage. As he gave her a pointed look, just getting one in return, she still didn't understand. Look, he said. I told you that when I was just a toddler, there was an attempt on my life that Dad stopped, right? Uncle nodded slowly, the first sparks of realization entering her eyes. If I became Hokage, then it wouldn't just be me in danger, okay? How long would it take before people start coming after you, or Haya, or the children that we might have someday? I just thought, as she lost her steam, as her arms dropped at her side, as Naruto's features softened, as he moved forward and drew her into a hug. I know, but you have to remember the Hokage is not just a village leader. It's also the strongest village shinobi. You're so humble, said Uncle. I'm just saying, he said, as the both of them were sharing a tight hug. I get it now, sorry for bringing it up, she said. As she moved back, she was never the best at apologies. I'm not discounting the possibility, I'm just saying there's a lot for me to think about. Well, can't say patience is my strong suit, but I'll try, she said, with a small shrug. Don't worry, even if I do take the position, you won't be rid of me that easily, he said, as he grabbed a kunai and flipped it up in the air. I'm just a flash away, after all. And he was gone, as a small weapon landed right in her hand. Show off, she said, with a big smile on her face. Time skip, the trip to Tokyo was uneventful. That was until they arrived at the rendezvous point, where they were supposed to meet up at the supposed entrance of Tokyo. The village hidden in the waterfalls was really hidden. If you were not born there or Itachi shinobi, you did not know where it is, period. It was why they did not get involved in any invasion, and why it was bad to threaten them. Teams from other villages can spend weeks or months searching for the entrance and being picked down by Taki, ninjas that were hiding. Naturally, people still need to enter somehow, merchants and shinobis from visiting areas. So the answer to that was easy, have them blindfolded for them. Yes, and drag underwater and some dizzy, many turns that even what your memory would have struggled to remember. There was a light genjutsu as well that Naruto felt, and no matter what he tried, he could not dispel it. By the time they made out of the cave system, they were wet, cold, and disoriented. But his Jennings made no fuss over it. It was a precaution that Taki had to take. As the Taki Chun that escorted them seemed upset by their reaction though. He seemed that many who made that journey, especially the civilians, would have complained about it a bit more. But he saw the slight twitch in Sasuke's eye, so he hurried his team along. The residents of Taki seemed friendly enough, well, until they caught sight of their headbands. Then it was all cold looks, disdain, and hesitant. Naruto figured this was how he would have been treated if his father wasn't who he was. He had a good life despite his Jinchuriki status. He could just imagine how much worse it could have been. Then again, he didn't really contact the beasts at him, just like what his mother and Mito had done. He did raise respect for Fu though, the only other well-adjusted-ish Jinchuriki ever met. Naruto? A voice called out from above the team, as Naruto looked up, as the rest of his team looked up as well. She was sitting on a rooftop as her legs were dangling as she munched on some takoyaki that was sitting at the side. As Naruto raised an eyebrow as he wondered, not for the first time, if he could summon people by thinking of their name. Yes, because this was not the first time. He was thinking about someone who just appeared. Fu, said Naruto, as her eyes beamed, as she poured the rest of the food into a red container that was slung onto her back. As she hopped down to street level, as she rushed over, her orange eyes glistened as she came closer. I figured that there weren't many people with spiky hair that red. Didn't expect to see you here though. She greeted as her eyes looked down towards younger teens. And with a group of Jenny no less, she said, as she smirked, going soft on me, Namikaze, she asked. As Naruto chuckled at that, his hand automatically going forth to ruffle one of the Jenny's hair, Sakura being the one that was closest. We will see after they trash the Chunin exams, won't we? Oh, confident are we, said Fu, as his three Jennings puff up at the praise that their sensei was giving them, until Ame asks, do you know her, sensei? Yeah, we actually met doing our own Chunin exams, so a while ago, he said. As their eyes widened, Fu only looked a few years older than them. You were at the same Chunin exams as Naruto sensei? Sakura asked. As Naruto told them that he was only 10 at the time, so Fu must have been younger. As Fu only chuckled, only Naruto and Sasuke noticed a small dark look flash across her eyes. Yeah, well, let's just say my village was eager to see me gain power quickly. She chuckled again, but you could see that there was a bit of sadness. As Ame looked between them. So, you're like Naruto-sensei, she said. A surprised look crossed their faces as her confirmation. As Naruto raised an eyebrow, as Fu was surprised. As her teammates were also confused. What does she mean by Sasuke got cut off as Naruto waved his hand? He had yet to tell them about his tent inside of him, and now was not the best time. The only reason Ami knew was because she was around the house almost every day, and not to mention Uncle had problems keeping her mouth shut in her own home. It wasn't that he thought they weren't mature enough, or that they would look at him differently. It's just that he hadn't gotten around to it yet. It's not something to talk about right now. You guys have enough on your plate to the Chunin exams. As he looked towards him, but if you all make it through the Chunin exam and pass, I'll be happy to tell you, he said. That, or you could try to get rid of Ame. Whatever works. As Ame blinked, as he just threw her right in the hell, but it served the purpose in a nonchalant way that Naruto spoke about it, reduced Sasuke's interest in it. Yeah, it's not too friendly, dinner conversation after all, said Fu. But the way that Fu said that, it made Sasuke interesting once again, as Naruto sighed, and feel bad now for throwing Ame to the wolf. Not really helping, he said, as Fu simply chuckled a bit. Wasn't really trying to, she said. But it's been a long time since we catch up. Want to go somewhere and catch up, she asked, with a small smile. Sensei, what about us? We still need to get the exam, said Sakura. Fu looked down and just for a moment irritation flashed across her face, but it wasn't noticed. Oh, in that case, the exams are taken. Place down in the academy. You turn left down this road and go down the main road. Big building with tile roof, the most horrible shade of pale green. You will know it, she said. As she looked back towards Naruto, saw both their conversation. But Ame tugged on Naruto's sleeve. Come on, sensei. Exam start in a few minutes. Then you guys better make tracks or you'll be late. As he dreaded a look of betrayal to pass over her face, but there wasn't any. She was rather nonchalant about it. Come on, said Naruto. I'm not gonna always be around, especially when you guys make Chunin. I'll be right here when you pass the first round, he said, giving them a smile. As that gave them an extra boost, knowing that he think that they were going to pass. Now get going, being late is not a good trait for Shinobi to develop, despite what Kakashi says. As they nodded and went off. That looked hard. Does the kids really mean that much to you? Seems like a silly thing to get attached to. After all, you're gonna lose touch with them once they pass. They grow on you, said Naruto. Much as you try to distance yourself. You don't know, he said. I would assume that you'll become a Jonin by now. I will have you know I became a Jonin when I was 13, she said. Wow, so that would be a few years after I made Anfu captain then, said Naruto. Pretty good. As she glared at him softly. But it cleared up in a flash as she smirked. Alright, Mr. Show-Off. How about a quick spar then? See who get the last laugh. She challenged with a smirk as she bounced from one foot to the other. Thanks but no thanks. I will try not to start any international incidents before I made Hokage. Naruto cursed in his mind as soon as he said it, as it just slipped out. As Fu, eyes widened beyond disbelief. You're going to be made Hokage? I wasn't really supposed to say that. Not really a secret, but I haven't accepted the offer yet. Maybe we could go somewhere to talk, said Naruto as he noticed people walking by. She nodded dumbly, as she was still surprised. Yeah, I was going to suggest that anyway, she said. 5 minutes later, they were sitting up in one of the large branches, in a large tree that simply took over the entire sky of Take. As it made Naruto wonder, why didn't he see this tree when he was near the rendezvous point? This is an interesting spot, said Naruto, as there was 2 minute awkward silence. I always come here to relax at the end of the day. It's one of the few places you can see the sunset, she said. What do you... Naruto trailed off, as he noticed there wasn't any sun in the sky, or any clouds, just a blue sky. Yeah, the genjutsu trick a lot of people. Most people think that we did something in the sun once you come in here, said Fu. Genjutsu? Naruto questioned. As he glanced back to the sky, when he squinted, he noticed a small shimmer over the sky. If you're not careful, your face will stick that way, said Fu. But there's a genjutsu set up over the entire village. It's what protects us from being found. That and every Taki ninja is rather paranoid. They would rather bite their tongue off than divulge in secrets. Then I can only presume that you're not of the same mind, said Naruto. Fu seemed to shrug like she didn't care one way or another. That was a rather worrisome attitude for someone who's a Jinjulki. So, you became a Jonin and got yourself a team, she said quickly. Obviously trying to change the subject, she seemed rather tense. So Naruto just nodded. Yeah, not entirely my choice, but I can't say I regret it either. According to someone, it has done me a world of good. Oh, so the big bad-blooded Flash got himself tied up with some kids, and they managed to touch his heart, she said. I could write a series of soppy novels with that, she said, with a smirk on her face. Stupid nickname, said Naruto. But that's me. What about you? You seem, well, better than last time I saw you. Yeah, I soldier true, she said. Got some respect when I became Chunin. Worked my ass off to become a Jonin, and now here I am. A halfway respectable member of society, she shouted, looking down the village, as there was a touch of resentment in her voice. Hey, I'm even a proctor for this year's Chunin exams, so how's that? That's great, he said. I hear stories, you know, about the others. They seem rather mixed, from outright scorn from villagers, and praises. As he turned back towards her with a smile, there are so few of us out there. We got to look after one another, right? I am glad to at least know that you're doing okay. You were the first other Jinjulki I met. Yeah, you're the same for me, she said. You know, before that, I thought it was hopeless, that nothing will ever change. But meeting you gave me a little hope. Seeing how your teammates didn't flinch away from you or glare at you from behind your back. It made me think if I work hard enough, I could have the same. And, said Naruto, village-wide praise, she said, changing the conversation. As Naruto said that she didn't want to talk about it, so he decided to change as well. Kumo, he said. Oh, said Fu. As it became rather awkward, as she started to tap her finger on the branch. So, you're a proctor for the exams, said Naruto, trying to break this awkwardness. Yeah, why? Worried about your little kid, she asked. Nah, I train them well and trust them enough, but it never hurts to be too safe, you know? Well, you got nothing to worry about in the first round, I suppose, she said. The candidates all walked into a room, expecting a test. It's easy. It's easy enough that most of them always pass it. As Naruto wondered what the catch was, every first test had a catch. He then saw the smirk on her face as he knew that he was right. Before the test started, they will be told that they can leave the room at any point, if they're unable to continue. There's actually a genjutsu in the room though. If the candidate managed to break it, they would see that the paper is actually blank, with the instructions in the back, tell them to leave the room. Naruto did not see the problem because most genin could break one illusion without trouble. The kicker is that genjutsu is double air. Anyone leave the room automatically fails. But if they break the double illusions, they will find the other part of the test, asking them to leave the test blank and wait until it's over, she said. Pretty smart, huh? As Naruto thought about it, he was sure that Ibiki would call it soft, seeing that there isn't any really psychological, well, breaking point in that. Seems to be leading towards genjutsu users, he said. Although my team has an advantage, given Sasuke Sharingan. That was, if he activate them, he would instantly see through both genjutsu. Well, Taki's rather proud of her genjutsu. We have to get an edge in somewhere. After all, it doesn't matter how good you are at fighting, if you get your throat slit by the first illusion you come across. As Naruto couldn't exactly argue, after all he was a teammate of two Uchihas for so long. He knew how dangerous genjutsu was. But we leave a few clues, like some of the proctor's jackets are the wrong color, and the windows. The season is wrong outside. Plus, only one member of the test needs to pass, that is if the others don't get disqualified. What if one of them doesn't write anything at all, and doesn't even see the genjutsu to ask? What are the chances of that happening? You have to be some lucky idiot to get through that way, she said. Yeah, well, it seemed like you would weed quite a few out to begin with, he said. Yeah, well, in nicest terms, Taki doesn't want people sticking around for too long. They want Chunin exams over as quick as possible. Did I mention that they're paranoid? So, if you're a proctor, how come you're not done with the academy to ask? Oh, I'm the proctor for a second exam, she said, as she looked at the sky before squinting. I'm not up for another 10 minutes. As Naruto looked up, you can tell the time from the sky? How, he said. It was rather disoriented for him. seeing that the sun was not there. Everyone in Taki can sooner or later. It's just one of those things you get used to, you know? It gets lighter and darker over the day without changing that much, so you can estimate the time from it. I swear though, old man Shiburo can tell what time it is to the minute. It's freaky. As Naruto knew that Shiburo was current leader of Taki, seeing that the minor village did not have village leader with Kage status. The only one that ever come close was the Rain with Hanzo. So, what do you do as proctor, Naruto asked, as he knew that Uncle was second proctor as well. And he was interested to see how the two villages would set up their differences. As Fu looked towards him, as she slid across the branch until she was closer to him. Why, Namikaze-san, you wouldn't be trying to get information out of poor little me to pass on to your team, now would you? As she asked in a rather sultry voice. But Naruto was far too used to these things. After all, Uncle was basically the queen of doing these flirtatious things with him. So, what if I am, he said, as he moved closer to her. As she turned red, as she jerked back, she was honestly not expecting this trick to be reversed on her. As Naruto chuckled, sorry about that, I couldn't resist. Really, she should have picked her target better than to go for someone like him. After he had to do this fan club as a kid, Uncle growing up. So yeah, he was used to this. I'm just interested how the exam differ from village to village, he said. Yeah, right, said Fu, as she readjusted herself. Well, it wouldn't make much of a difference because you can't see your students in the first and second class anyway. This would be Taki trying to get them over with as soon as possible then. As Fu nodded as she returned from a previous shock. Yeah, that's right, she said. They all get led to the system of natural caves that run under the village. It's like a maze down there, which is even worse than disorienting genjutsu laced on the area. I remember, I felt that while we were being led into the village, said Naruto. Yeah, but you also noticed that you couldn't break it for some reason. As Naruto nodded, that made her smirk. The genjutsu was being held by the chakra coming from a tree, same as the one spamming the village. As she patted the large branch that they were sitting on, as Naruto looked up, he imagined without the genjutsu taken away the sun, the tree would cast a shadow over the entire village. So what, you break the genjutsu but it's instantly reapplied, because it has an unlimited source of chakra. As Naruto knew that Taki was the supporter of the chakra paper, and it was coming from this tree. As Naruto wondered where this tree exactly came from. Don't even bother asking, said Fu, seeing the look on his face. This tree has been here before the founding of the village, and it would probably outlast everyone. Huh? So what then, said Naruto. Well, the candidates are all thrown into the canopy system, told that they have to collect one of 10 scrolls that are scattered about. But in truth, it's only 8 scrolls. Naturally, said Naruto, as she punched him in his arm for his sass. Right, she said, eyeing him, daring him to interrupt again. He zipped his lips, as she chuckled a bit. Well, they're told they have to get the scrolls and make it back out one of the exits. As Naruto looked at her. Yes, she said, there are 10 exits. We're not that exactly cruel. But, as each exit is used, they get sealed off. That part Naruto could tell was her idea, she looked quite proud of it. So they have to go through the tunnels, under, a disoriented genjutsu, collect a scroll they don't know the location of, and make it to an exit that closed behind them. All the while, other teams are doing the same, and they have no idea if any scrolls are left. And they don't even know if more exits could be sealed off, said Naruto, as he got a happy nod from Fu. Oh, and they have one day to do it in, she said, with a proud smile. Huh, and the third task. 8 scrolls would leave, a lot of candidates, he said. Team matches, so we don't have to have preliminaries and extend the exam anymore, because you know, paranoid. Sounds like a pretty solid team exams. But my team are going to blast through it, you just watch and see, said Naruto. Shouldn't you be going then, said Naruto as he looked up in the sky. You can already read the sky, she asked. Naruto motioned for her to come closer. As she did, her cheeks became a bit red, being so close to him. And when they were extremely close, he whispered, Nah, there's a clock in the ramen stand over there. Oh damn it, don't do that, she said. She backed away from him. As she turned her face, looking towards where the clock was. But it was far away, she couldn't read that. But he could. As she caught her blush. But when she turned back, he was standing up. Well then, I guess I'll see you after the second test then. Take care of my cute little Jennings. You're really so confident that he will pass? Asked Fu. As she was a bit hesitant, wondering how a Jinjulki of all people could trust so easily. I never had any doubt, he said, as he fell off the branch and vanished in a red blur. What a weird guy, she said. She had to call him weird. How else was she going to explain that fluttering in her chest the moment she started to talk to him? And it got even worse when he got so close to her. Time skip. Naruto was in the waiting room for the Jonin senseis as he was watching his team as they made it through the first round. and the monitors were set up in the cave system at the front so you could see his team. Are you guys nervous? Asuma asks. I'm not worried. Between Hinata Byakugan, Kiba knows, and she knows bugs, my team should fly past this test. Kurenai stated boldly. While it was true they would have little trouble navigating the course, defending themselves was a different issue. I'm sure they will be fine, even if they don't actually pass Naruto. As he looked at the other's team, his team might be different from Kurenai, as they might have a bit of trouble getting around, but they were mostly focused on Sasuke's Sharingan though. Yes, he could use it as their advantage, but when it comes to fighting, he was sure that his team was the strongest here. He was just lucky that the 2 male students of Guy's squad had already passed already, because they would pose a threat. How can you be so calm about this? I mean, I know you're not like Kakashi, but I thought you would care at least a little more, said Kurenai, as she glanced towards him as he was relaxing over on one of the sofas. In contrast, she was leaning on it as her fingers were digging into the sofa, and Asuma was walking around nervously. I do care, said Naruto. It's just I know my team can handle themselves against anything in this exam. As he never took his eyes from the screens as he watched Fu doing her rounds as the Genins wait for the start signal. Oh really? Asuma said, pausing behind Naruto. Even against our teams, he threw out with a challenging smirk. Oh absolutely, said Naruto. Your guys wouldn't stand a chance, he said without looking around, but the two of them saw his smirk on his face as you could see it at the side. Oh really? Care to bet on that? If my team make it further than you guys' 2 team, you guys have to pick up the next 5 check the next time I take Choji out to barbecue. Sounds fair, said Kurenai, but when my team win, you both have to attend the Hyuga next tea ceremony. Both of them shuddered at that. The Hyuga tea ceremony lasted for hours and being extremely boring. Okay, said Naruto, but when my team win, and they will, you two have to teach each of my Genin a technique that they wouldn't be able to find in the library. The both of them grumbled a bit before they nodded slowly. Good, maybe that would get Sasuke off his back for a while and give Sakura some needed genjutsu. As the both of them came and sat down, the tension in the air dispersed by the friendly banter. I almost wish we had some snacks or something, said Kurenai. I could go out and get some, said Naruto. It will only take me a moment. The two of them looked at him. What? He asked. Asuma looked at Naruto. Did you know? Oh no, said Naruto, as Asuma was glancing down at his pouch. I wouldn't go around placing harshing marks like that. They are allies after all, he said in a hushed whisper. No need to go and make them suspicious or anything. I would just run out. I'm still pretty fast without it, you know. Yeah, I remember, said Asuma, as he rubbed his arm. In order for the Jonin get together, he challenged Naruto to a spar. The only thing was, Naruto could not use the higher shin. According to Asuma, it was a broken technique. He had agreed, and won, high-trashing beating later. Asuma realized that Naruto boasting wasn't exactly, well, a lie. But I don't think you should all the same, said Kurenai. There's a Taki sensei that has been eyeing your spot. I think she will take it if you leave. As the both of them turned, just slowly, and they saw a young female. She was about Kurenai's age, as she was looking at Naruto. But when she saw she got caught, she quickly turned her head, blushing. As Asuma leaned back and patted Naruto in the back, as Kurenai gave him a small glare, for reasons she didn't understand why. Oh yeah, his spot is what she's interested in, alright. Asuma said that chuckle. Nobody tell uncle about this, said Naruto. Or what, said Asuma with a smirk. Or, I'll tell your brother how often you have been really smoking, said Naruto. As Asuma paled, his brother was not the one that he was frightened of though. The man wasn't even an active shinobi anymore. His brother's wife on the other hand. That thought made him shiver. How do you even know my brother? Asuma asked. Konohamaru's father didn't get out much. A paralyzed body do that to a man. Naruto simply shrugged. Kurenai was confused because she never met the Hokage, eldest son or his wife after all. I spent more time with the third than I care to admit these past few months. I've almost met the entire Sarutobi clan at this point. And what's stopping me from telling uncle? Asked Kurenai. As she smirked towards him, he had nothing on her. But Naruto had something. All said Sakura knew, he said. She instantly shut up as she went to sit down. I'll be good, she said. She remembered the last conversation she had with Sakura in her training. Let's just say when Sakura had a passion for it, she was relentless. Sasuke knew this very well. Kurenai loved to discuss about the art as much as any user, but doing so for hours as Sakura stood there and took down notes and promising to be back the next day, and the next day, that was just too much. As they were bantering, the start of the exam began as the team started to search for the scrolls. The beginning was rather dull, just them stumbling around in the dark, but Kurenai's team were walking normally because Hinata with their Byakugan. I hope they played smart and not try to search out other teams, Kurenai said, as Hinata had this rather cold look in her eyes. She had this strange notion to prove herself a clan head. She needs to fight strong opponents. Her team losing at the second round of the last shooting exams at Konoha seemed to reinforce that. A sigh escaped her lips. She was really worried about Hinata. What a really sweet, innocent girl had gone. Well, she would do well not to search my team out. Sasuke has the very same issues as Naruto. But he was actually rather intrigued about the outcome of a clash between the two dojutsu users. He was sure that Sasuke would come out on top, but he was a tricky subject, seeing that the Uchiha and the Hyuga had been in competition since the Senjus died out. The two families had grown good at exploiting the other weaknesses, but it would be a good battle none the same. And you think your team will beat mine? As Naruto turned towards her and just grinned. Can we not get back into this? Said Asuma. You're only saying that because you know your team is the weakest when it comes to direct confrontation, said Kurenai. Although it was said playfully, it did have some truth to it. The Inoshikacho was to capture or incapacitate opponents. In a team situation, they were vulnerable to overpowering. Asuma simply grumbled something under his breath, as he did not respond out loud. Good one, said Naruto, as he smiled at Kurenai, who grinned back. And you can talk. Each of my students are suited to deal with yours in a straight-up fight, you know. Shino's bugs would be practically immune to Sakura Genjutsu, Kiba's speed, and Claws would be able to deal with any swordplay you manage to teach Ami. And I still maintain that Hinata will be able to match Sasuke with little difficulty. She was Kunoichi of the Year for a reason, you know. Well, if they were smart, which I know they are, they will know not to attack so straightforwardly. So, how would they attack? Asked Kurenai. But Naruto simply tapped his nose. How can you be so cocky all the time? She said, as she wondered if the fort had been this way too, or did Naruto get this from his mother? That's how, said Naruto as he motioned towards the screen. As she looked up, see Team 7 holding a scroll in their position. Nearby, a team from the Hidden Rain lay on the ground unconscious. They were discussing something, but lack of audio, they could not hear. Whatever they were saying, Ami seemed rather happy about it, while Sasuke was flipping the scroll in his hand. None of them had a scratch on them, even though the walls of the tunnel showed that there was a fight. That doesn't mean anything, said Kurenai. My team simply started further away from any scrolls. It baffled her that Hinata with the Byakugan couldn't find a scroll as quickly as Team 7 though. It was just dumb luck, she argued in her head though. She didn't really want to irritate Naruto, despite his cocky, friendly nature. He kinda frightened her a bit. Despite him always being kind, she heard about his time in Anvu. He was given that nickname for a reason, you know. Sure, keep telling yourself that, said Naruto. I have a team to go greet and congratulate as he got up. As he ignored the other Jonin senseis, scowling at him out of the room. They could still be ambushed on the way out, said Kurenai. You wish, said Naruto. Kurenai turned back around her fingers, digging into the cushion. He's so insufferable, she said. As Asuma chuckled. And yet you stick around him, said Asuma. Suddenly, she glared towards him as he shut up. Time skip. True to what Kurenai said. They got ambushed 3 times on the way out. Teams were sticking at the entrance to capture other teams and take their scroll. But they managed to deal with all of the ambush. They weren't the first team out though. That honor belonged to a team from Kiri, the first team that Kiri has ever sent to the Chunin exams. It was a rather historic moment considering all things. And the 3 young Genins weren't disappointed. There was also the fact that a certain Yuki was a part of the team, something that Ami must be happy about. And it would be excellent, teasing material. Someone had to balance out all that overconfidence that Uncle was giving the girl. And much Naruto delight, they had came through before any other Konoha team. As he congratulated them on their success, and he told them to get some ramen. The next task was until tomorrow, so he gave his team and made them rest themselves during the downtime. They will need to be fully prepared for the team matches to come. Kurenai team made it through. Also, Asuma team made it through as well. When asked what they did to make it through, Asuma had been tight-lipped about it, as he was doing that because of Naruto's cockiness earlier. The rest of the day went by smoothly, as Naruto showed his team a few more pointers, and also trained them a slight bit. Time skip. As Naruto was making his way towards the stadium, where the matches are going to be held, as they were collected early in the morning by Itachi team to make sure no one would be late for the exam. The people here really want to make sure there were no delays. They really wanted everyone out. He chuckled to himself. As Naruto wondered if the nobles in the expensive clothing had to go through the tunnels as well. It made him chuckle. And what's so funny is the voice. As food dropped down from the sky, oddly enough Naruto was in the middle of the street. There were no buildings around. As he looked up, there was no way she could jump from anything around here. Shaking the thought of his head, he spoke, drenched nobles, like if food hadn't just dropped out of the sky, and they have been talking for hours now. I agree, but unfortunately, they are escorted in by a set of different tunnels, she said. The path is more winding and it takes longer, but there's less wetness. Doesn't stop them from complaining about it though, she said. Yeah well, what you gonna do about it, said Naruto. As Fu chuckled, you know, as she gave him a slight punch. You know, you're alright, Naruto-kun, she said. As Naruto looked towards her. Oh, it's Naruto-kun, he said. Oh, is it? Fu-chan, he said, as her cheeks became a slight red. As she calmed herself. Yeah, it is, she said. You got a problem with that, she asked. Nope, not at all, he said, as he started to walk. As Fu had trailed behind him, fumbling with her hands. As she wanted to say something, Fu said Naruto. Yeah? What's up with you, said Naruto. As he turned towards her. As she looked towards him, as he could see it in her eyes, something was wrong. I'm fine. What's up with you, she said. As he looked at her for a moment, before he smiled, he started to walk again. It's weird, isn't it? That we don't know each other so well, but I have this connection with you. As she nodded as her eyes went wide. But we do. We do know each other, she said. We're both Jinchuriki. We know each other better than anyone else could. Because we understand. You shouldn't be so quick to give up on each other, Fu, said Naruto. Just because we are what we are, doesn't mean we're the only people we can let in. He smiled. It was small, but it was real. If you just allow yourself to trust someone, I'm sure you can find everything you're looking for. Her hands were clenched tightly by her side, as she looked rather conflicting as he spoke, as she waited for him to finish. But I do, she said, and I have. As she took a step closer, as Naruto cocked his head to the side. But then, Naruto was cut off, as she wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him. As she moved her lips in what she hoped was a passionate way, because she wasn't used to this. But even with her lack of knowledge, he wasn't kissing her back and she knew it. He was just there, eyes wide in shock. I'm sorry, she said. She jumped back, bowing several times. She tried to hide the blush that taking over her features. As Naruto stood there, in a daze, until she muttered several apologies. I'm sorry if I'm not really good. I mean, I never, as she couldn't really speak. As she saw Naruto look troubled, his eyebrow creasing into a frown. As he looked at her, it wasn't scolding or irritating. He just seemed confused. He raised his hand to pause. As she lowered her head, already heard the rejection in his voice. Oh, she said, as she wasn't exactly sure what to do after this. She wasn't really expecting any of this. She just acted without a thought, or without the possibilities of thinking about the reaction that Naruto might have had. She allowed herself to be hopeful, and now she felt a heavy weight pressing on her chest. Oh, I see, she said as she took another step back. Is it because of how I look, she asked, fumbling with her hands. No, said Naruto. I mean, you're very cute. As he winced at her reaction, that might have not been the best thing to say. Then, is it because I'm younger, she asked. As he shook his head no. Damn it, this was hard for him. He was used to playful and teasing banter with Uncle, but this was real. This girl had just opened herself up to him, and now he had to stand here and crush that. There was no easy way to do such a cold thing. I wouldn't care about something so superficial. To be honest, he wouldn't care about many things if they were in the way of love. At least, if it was Uncle. Village, country, age, appearance. If it was a woman that he grew up loving, he wouldn't matter one bit. Then, as Naruto raised his hand, stopping her. Come on, do it. What are you waiting for? It's gonna hurt at first. I just don't hurt her, he thought to himself. As she opened herself up to him this way, and he was going to crush her, but he had to. He couldn't lead her on. I have a girlfriend. One I love very much, he stated, perhaps a bit too quickly. As it took a moment for it to sink in for her. Her eyes widened when it did. I see, she said, as the both of them went quiet. As Naruto felt incredibly awkward had to do this, and Fu felt like the biggest idiot that ever walked the planet. Of course, no one like Naruto would have a girlfriend. How stupid she was. Why would she, a potential 10-day Hokage, ever go for someone like her? A person. Why would he, ever, like someone like... Don't do that. As Naruto raised her chin. What? She said, surprised. Was he reading her mind? Don't do that. Don't think of yourself like that, ever. Her orange eyes only widened even more. Wonder if he could see her mind. She heard that people in Konoha could read people's mind. Could he? But, I'm not reading your mind, said Naruto. I don't have to. I've had those thoughts as well, you know. The girl I love, she isn't what most would call normal. But when we start going out first, I was worried. I fear for what kind of life I would bring her in, by just associating with me. Do you want to know what happened here to ask? As Fu really wanted to know what happened, as she nodded. She punched me in the arm and told me to suck it up, and to stop worrying. And my concerns mean that my feelings were that much real. But then, what I'm trying to say, Fu, just because you're a Jinchuriki, that doesn't mean that you're different from everyone else. You're human too, and one day, Someone will see that, he said, as he stuck his hand out. After a moment, she took it. Trust me. As she really did trust him. I need to think about things, she said, as she took a step back. Thank you, Naruto, she said. Wait, no Naruto-gun, he said, as she giggled, as she turned her back, as wings came from it. As Naruto watched in amazement as she flew. He was sure that she was going to be fine. She was a fighter like him. As he turned towards the stadium, he was going to be late and he knew it. He didn't need Kurna compare him to Kakashi anymore. As Naruto made his way there without any more distraction, as it was a cliffside, yes, it was carved out of the cliffside, and the benches, green, the rock formation, and it was beautifully created though. Many people were here from different villages as they brushed shoulders without bearing weapons. After all, Taki was a peaceful place. As he was walking, he was tapped lightly on the shoulder as he turned to see a Konoha Jonin, as he recognized a man from hanging around the Hokage. Ah, radio, was it? Said Naruto, as he had a scar on the left side of his face, like he was hit by lightning. Yes, Namikaze-san, Radio said. The Hokage wishes to speak with you. His message delivered. Radio walked off. As Naruto looked over towards the raised platform, Naruto frowned because he wanted to speak with his team before the test began. But he can't go against the Hokage's order. A minute later, after a heated discussion with the Chunin guard in it, he was let up. It baffled Naruto why that was even required. They were Kages. They could defend themselves just fine. As Naruto walked up the stairs to the smile of Hiruzen. Ah, Naruto, no trouble getting here, I assume. The man said that rather twinkle in his eye. Oh, of course not, Hiruzen, said Naruto with a shot back. My, Hokage-sama, I never knew you allow your subordinates to speak to you so casually. A smooth, feminine voice said, as Naruto turned his head, her long, auburn hair falling back and tied up, as it was draped over one of her eyes, as she gave him a seductive wink. As she shifted better in her seat to face him, shifting her blue dress, with a slice at the top to show a rather sizable cleavage. Naruto Namikaze, Mizukage-sama, he said, with a small bow of his head, as he showed some respect, as he had seen the hat at the back of her chair. But she wasn't wearing the traditional robes though. But that was good for many men in the era, after all. She was dressed in a rather, well, it didn't seem like it was intentionally, but she had a good figure. Why yes, I could definitely see why you can put up with a little bit of disrespect. In his case, Hokage Dono, would you mind terribly if I were to borrow him? Just for the proceedings, of course. She said a rather sultry smirk as she patted the spot right beside her in a large chair that she was draped across. As Hiruzen was smirking the entire time. Yes, Naruto-kun is a rather special case, Mizukage Dano, being my chosen successor and all. I'm sure he'll be more than willing to entertain you for the length of the exams. Is that right, Naruto? As she moved forward, a hand going towards his shoulder. Please call me Mei. Being called Mizukage becomes obviously dry sometimes, despite Ao's insistence. As Ao twitched as he was a distance away. As Naruto realized it was the same man that he met in Nami. So you're the famous Naruto Namikaze I had the pleasure to hear all about. All good things, I hope, said Naruto. As she giggled quite a bit. Quite, she said. She backed off a bit, allowing the Hokage to introduce a man next to him. Naruto, this is Shiburo Dono, the leader of Take. As Naruto felt a slight tension between two of them, as he reached forward and shook Shiburo's hand. A pleasure, Naruto said politely, as the man simply nodded. I'm sure. He said in a gruff tone that matched his hardened appearance. He didn't have any guards up here. Well, they were standing in the middle of his village though. Well then, now that the introduction is over, I believe that we have the matches to begin. As Naruto looked down, one of her first teams was his, as they faced on a team from the Hidden Stone. So I assume the Tsuchikage will not be joining us, Mei said, as everyone went to their seats. Much to Naruto's shimei, before he could take a seat right beside or behind Sarutobi, she dragged him right next to her, as he looked towards the old man, but Sarutobi simply smiled, as he was doing this just to irritate Naruto. Oh no, only he really made the journey from the Hidden Stone anymore. Much too much strain on his hip, I assume. Well then, perhaps it's time for him to sit down, said Mei, as she leaned back in her chair, really close to Naruto. Don't you think so, Naruto, she asked. I really can't say, nor is it my business too. But surely as a Hokage's successor, you must have your opinions on political situation, she said. Well, said Naruto, as he looked towards Hiruzen, who still had a smile on his face. The Tsuchikage is not one to be underestimated. My father never faced him personally, but his journals only has praise and respect for the man. As Naruto knew that his name didn't really carry warmth in there, well, they really want his head. But you don't think he's getting a bit too up in his ears to manage the entire village? Mei said. As Naruto could tell that she was one for seduction, she must have went over this a few times. And if you didn't know about her history, you'd think that she was just a little, weak, beautiful woman, but she was not. After all, he had to know about the Civil War and after it. Hiruzen is just as whole as the Shichikage, and Konoha could not ask for a better leader. Oh, you flatter me, Naruto, said Hiruzen. But the Hokage also stepped down some years ago. He realized there was someone better, in your father nonetheless, Mei stated, as she was being a bit intense about this. Maybe the situation is not the same in the stone, said Naruto, as he really didn't like doing this. He just wanted to watch his team fight, and maybe talk back in front of the Jonin senseis. Did being a leader really meant with this fake acting every time? Or maybe it was different when you was actually in the seat of power, and not have to presume yourself in this way to make a good showing for yourself. Yes, said Mei, as she smiled, an answer worthy of a politician. I think you'll make a great successor, and the tales of your ability only support this. As she leaned away, sat in a more comfortable position in her chair, as Naruto felt like he was duped. This your team if I'm to be right, Namikaze-san, she said. As Naruto gave a quick nod, as Sasuke and Ami rushed in together, as Sakura staying back going through hand sign. They are certain to look forward to see how they fare, as students speak well about their sensei, even if they realized or not. As they raised eyebrow, but she was looking on the fight again. As the team also did, a 2 in the front and 1 in the back from the stone. But their frontliners were only ninjutsu type. While Sakura confused the remaining member before, they could do what they could. Sasuke rushed in, and Ami rushed forward as well, as the both of them switched targets on a whim, confusing the other two, as they didn't know who they were going to be fighting against, the blade, or Sasuke kunai, or Sasuke using his hands, or using fire style jutsu. And Sakura cast that subtle genjutsu to make them see two Ami before they dispel it. Neither of the stone genin get off a jutsu before they were defeated, as Sasuke and Ami tied them together using that effective throw of ninja wire, and the last one disoriented by Sakura genjutsu placement, as he was knocked out easily. Well, that was certainly impressive and a swift showing, said Mei, as she was always happy to see the stone defeated and incapacitated. There was no love lost between the stone and Kiri, that was for sure. My mentors were rather fond of the younger generation passing the older ones. Well, they look quite promising right now, said Mei. I expect nothing less from the team of Namikaze-san. She continued, eyeing up Naruto's reaction. Well, there's only so much I can do with what's already there. Each of them are unique in their own way. I can only nurture them and provide a bit of guidance. It felt a bit weird to be congratulated for a student's performance. It made him proud, but also a bit embarrassed. Oh, and you're so modest too. If you weren't from a foreign village, I would snatch you right up. She joked, but there seemed to be something there. As she leaned forward, Hokage-dono, she said. As Hiruzen chuckled, I'm afraid the village need him, Mizukage-dono. Terribly sorry. As Mei sat back with a playful pout. Shame, she said. The next team was a team from Take, as that draw calculated their attention, and Kurenai's squad. But the Take team was clearly too outclassed by Kurenai's squad. Team 8 was brutal as Hinata broke into the line. She scattered them in the wind, as cutting off their points, so the rest of the team could beat them off. Kiba kept on destroying everything around him as he spun violently along with Akamaru, and Shino cleaned up whatever was left. Well, Konoha seemed to have the upper hand in the exam, but I think that's about to change. Mei said that smirk as the next group whirled on. Oh, and what makes you so certain, Mizukage-dono? As Hiruzen looked down at the two new squads. If my age isn't catching up to me, one of those teams is under the care of my son, the new Inoshika-cho, as it was Asuma's team, as the girl and the fat one was dragging along the other one, as he seemed like he didn't want to be here. But the other team, as he saw who was on that team, he understand why Mei was so confident now. Haku. Because Hokage-dono, that's the first genuine squad from Kyoto to ever pose this exam, and I choose the best of the best. She said that smirk. Naruto felt sorry for them, especially if Haku have improved since their last meeting in Nami. His thoughts were only proved correct as the match started. The Konoha team did put up a good showing, as they show smart thinking and fast acting with Shikamaru knowledge. But such tactics were used to capture single targets, which they did a few times, but the Kira ninjas broke those traps. Haku's speed far surpassed everyone in this exam, except for probably Sasuke's, as he was uncatchable despite Shikamaru's best placed plans. As at least he was teaching the Konoha team a valuable lesson. Sometimes you could face power that can surpass anything you know. And maybe if it was just Haku, they might have defeated him, as they nearly caught him using the waterfall shadow as a trick. But Haku was not the only problem. The Mizukage did not lie when she said that she only brought the best. The other male member of the team with blue hair proved to be a problem as well, as he had a massive blade and teeth like Zabuza. A swordsman in training her to ask as he looked towards Mei behind him. He was unsure how to address her. Mizukage-sama would show difference, and Dono, that would imply that they were equals. And he was definitely not going to call her Mei. Ah yes, Gojo, a remarkable young boy. One of the most skilled wielders of Hiramakiri Kiri has seen in generations. Supposedly one of the hardest weapons to use in the mist. And it had a large chakra drain, but the boy was wheeling around easily. The last member of the team was a Kunoichi, as she was hanging back. But Naruto could see that she was a rather skilled genjutsu user, as Team 10 has gotten rather confused at most points, as she was disorienting the team for her other teammates' user speed and strength to overtake the other team. It was one of the longer matches, seeing that Shikamaru strained everything to the last possible detail, well until they were mopped up, but at least they put up a good fight though. A team from Taki then faced off against a team from the grass, as the Taki team win. It was then his team, as Naruto watched intensely, as Kurenai's team came out as well. He had trained them as best as possible, and they witnessed how Team 8 fought. It was up to them now. The moment the match started, a bright light fell on the arena floor, as most of the shinobis twitched, but it was Team 7 doing, as Sasuke was the one that dropped a flash bomb. Hinata stepped back, rubbing at her eyes as her sensitive dojutsu took the damage. Chose Sasuke to attack a fellow dojutsu user where he knew where it hurt. After all, it was the same thing for his eyes. Shino was the only one that wasn't affected, his sunglasses, and his high collar shirt as well, as he spread his arms as bugs poured out, as he surrounded his group before they could be attacked. But Sasuke smirked and flashed through hand signs, and he wasn't alone, as Ami rushed for her fingers twitching on her blade's hilt. Fire release, fireball jutsu, said Sasuke to release a massive fireball. Wind release. Ami then dropped low as the fire passed over her. Gale slash, as the wind slashed drive right into the fireball, and it fused with it, as the thing became a giant inferno, as the flames exploded outwards, as Ami used her sword to throw herself back to her team. A great portion of Shino Hive was incinerated in one shot. Combination attacks were hard to pull off, so to see them do it with such little effort, everyone mouth was open wide, as it made many of them wonder what kind of monster had trained such Genins. Up in the Kage box, Naruto felt like he wanted to smile for some reason. It wasn't over yet though as Ami retreated back. As Sakura looked at her arms, she had been lightly burned when she brought her hands up. As Sakura healed them though, she might be able to pull the maneuver off, but it was far from perfect. But as soon as everything died down, Kiba was there, spinning violently. As Sasuke saw him coming, and at that moment Hinata recovered as she dashed forward as well, as she had an irritated look on her face as she rushed straight towards him. As Sasuke dashed forward, as the both of their hands became blurs of motion as they started to clash. Sakura and Ami had problems though, as Kiba came right in the center between them. As the two of them pushed off one another, Kiba crashed into the ground, ricocheting out once again. And it was an identical vortex hiding right in the shadow. Ami had just enough time to bring her sword around. As it crashed into her, it was Akamaru, as it grinded against her blade, forcing her feet back. Eventually though, Akamaru and a hench lost his momentum and came to a stop. Ami lashed out, but he wasn't that disoriented, as he brought a claw hand up to block the strike. From there, they started to clash, each sending sparks into the air, as Kiba rushed over as well. As over to the corner, Shino was still reeling from the loss of his insects, as he failed to notice that Sakura was no longer there, as he felt small tremors in the ground. Hands then wrapped around his ankles, as he was pulled underground. Sakura looked happy as she melted out of the ground a second later, only to twist her butt just in time as a spinning blur grazed her arm. But he came back towards her, as she took a deep breath in, as she remembered her sensei training. As she sidestepped his attack, the blur was surprised, as Sakura looked right down at him, as she pulled back her fists in momentum as she drive it. Boom! As the spin stopped instantly, as his body poof replaced Akamaru, who was thrown across the arena. Kiba snapped his head around hearing Akamaru cry, giving Ami the one up. She stabbed her blade to the ground as she bent it back as she stepped on the hilt, as she pushed forward and slammed her fist right in Kiba's face, using the momentum to increase her punch. As he was thrown back violently, Sasuke smirked as he saw it, as Hinata was heavily trying to defeat him. Sasuke raised the arm as she struck him once, but that was just a ploy. With that momentum as she came forward, as he twisted his body, she did not notice Kiba smashed right into her, as she was knocked off balance. Sasuke flexed, struck her down to his arm, reopening the point, with a brutal Flurries of punch and kicks, she was knocked down. Then silence. Until cheers could be heard, everyone clapping and congratulating them. As Team 7 was led off the field, as Naruto had a big grin on his face as he was so proud of them. Naruto-kun, just what have you been teaching those three? Hiruzen said as he saw the most flawless teamwork. Don't worry, Hiruzen. It's nothing my own sensei wouldn't have taught me at their own age. As Hiruzen looked at Naruto, you were on Captain at their age. You didn't have a sensei. Ah, you caught that, huh? Said Naruto. Well, they do call me the professor for a reason, said Hiruzen. Well, in any case, that was quite a display, said Mei. As she watched her team going to face off against the Itachi team, as Hiruzen had a smirk until it vanished. As he looked down, there was a sword through his chest. There was a moment of silence as everyone stared at the mad shinobi behind Hiruzen, holding on to the hilt of the blade. But guys, if you end subscribe right here for the next part, if you start know what to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn the bell notifications to get posted. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace.